Welcome guys! Today we're headed straight to Varlaam, picking up right where we left off at the Great Meteoron. We'll climb to one of Meteora's most remarkable monasteries. We'll uncover dramatic staircases carved into the rock, centuries-old frescoes, and small treasures that bring the monastery story to life, all in a place shaped by solitude and the desire to escape the world below. Come with us and discover this fascinating place. Our boots are back on the stone, once again face to face with the sheer cliffs and the narrow staircases carved into them. If you haven't seen our visit to the Great Meteoron yet, we've linked it in the description. It was a truly unforgettable experience. We leave behind the impressive presence of the Great Meteoron, walking among rocks that seem frozen in time. Ahead, another monastery rises, Varlaam, perched high above the valley, almost unreachable. From the Great Meteoron, it's a short walk to Varlaam. It only takes about 15 minutes. As we move closer, a question comes to mind. Why did monks choose such a remote and difficult place to build? To begin answering that question, we need to look at the setting itself. The Monastery of Varlaam stands on top of a 373-meter-high rock. From a distance, Varlaam looks like it grows straight out of the stone, not just sitting on the mountain, but rising from it. This deep connection between the landscape and the architecture is no accident. In Meteora, monasteries aren't just built on the inaccessible, they're built from it. Building here was an enormous physical challenge, but also a powerful spiritual choice. Did you know that the name Meteora comes from the Greek word meaning suspended in the air? That's why these are often called monasteries suspended in the sky. A fitting image, as they seem to float atop these towering stone pillars. What were the monks hoping to find by isolating themselves so high above the world? It all began in the 14th century when a monk named Varlaam climbed this rock and built a small chapel, a cell, and a few humble rooms. Every stone was hauled up by hand, lifted with ropes and pulleys from the depths of the valley, defying gravity with each load. But after his death, the site fell silent, abandoned to the wind and stone for nearly 100 years. Then came two brothers, Nectarios and Theophanes. They were the ones who brought the monastery back to life. The path narrows between two rock walls that seem ancient, but this passage was carved only in the 20th century. In the 14th and 15th centuries, during the Ottoman invasions, there were no stairs or defined entrances, just hanging ladders or nets that could be withdrawn in times of danger. The monks did not offer armed resistance. They took refuge in the heights, cutting off all contact with the outside world. Every part of the monastery was conceived as a refuge, and accessibility was its defense. The entrance to Varlaam is unlike any ordinary approach. A narrow bridge leads to a steep staircase. To respect the sacred atmosphere of the monasteries, visitors are asked to follow a modest dress code. Men must wear long pants and avoid shorts or sleeveless shirts. Women are expected to wear long skirts, pants are not permitted, and shoulders should be covered. But during winter, if you're wearing a long coat that covers most of your legs, there's usually no problem with wearing pants. Wraps and skirts are usually available at the entrance, just in case. And since visiting often involves climbing steps and uneven paths, comfortable shoes are highly recommended. 195 steps carved into the rock and added only in the 20th century. Before that, the only way up was by ropes, nets, and pulleys. Nothing here is straightforward or easy. And that's the point. Every step upward is part of a spiritual journey inward. Probably this bas-relief represents the two brothers who rebuilt Varlaam in the 16th century, presenting the monastery as a sacred offering, a common motif in Orthodox art. As you climb the stone staircase carved into the cliffside, each step brings you closer to a world suspended between earth and sky. The wind brushes the ancient rock, and the view opens gradually, revealing glimpses of the valley below, a quiet reminder of how far devotion can reach. Admission to the Varlaam monastery costs €3, payable at a small ticket booth just before entering the main complex. It feels as if the mountain itself is wrapping around you, guarding the silence and offering space for reflection. The monastery's terraces and gardens offer peaceful spaces for reflection under the open sky. Stone-paved pathways wind around manicured gardens and pots of Mediterranean plants. This space offers moments of quiet reflection and expansive views over the Meteora Valley. From Varlaam's terrace, the valley of the Penios River unfolds like a vast canvas, where sky and earth seem to blend into one. Here, the architecture goes beyond stone walls. The landscape itself becomes part of the sanctuary, a quiet reminder of how small we are next to the greatness of nature and faith. At the heart of the main terrace stands an elegant bell pavilion, an open-sided gazebo-style structure, supported by stone columns and topped with a small tiled dome, housing the monastery's bells. Its design follows the style of Orthodox bell towers. It serves as a spiritual marker and a place to enjoy the view across the valley. Early in the morning is the best time to avoid the crowds. By now it's around midday and the quiet has given way to a steady flow of visitors. Now let's enter the Katholikon, the main church and spiritual heart of the monastery. It was consecrated in 1541 and dedicated to All Saints. Before stepping into the church, visitors first pass through the exonarthex, a transitional space between the open courtyard and the inner sanctum. Along its walls, a row of wooden benches immediately draws the eye. Each one is finely carved with floral and geometric motifs, continuing a centuries-old tradition of Orthodox craftsmanship. The larger seat, adorned with angels and an icon, suggests a place of honor, perhaps once reserved for the abbot. The room also features painted details and decorative elements that reflect the monastic aesthetic. Historically, it served as a gathering place for certain processions, but today offers a brief moment of stillness before continuing the visit. Inside the Katholikon, photography and video are not allowed, preserving the sacred atmosphere and the integrity of its centuries-old frescoes. The frescoes in this section, the narthex, were painted in 1566 by two brothers, Georgios and Frangos Kantaris. Packed with figures and rich in storytelling, they covered the walls with vivid scenes from the apocalypse, their ochres, reds, and blues glowing softly in the filtered light. The nave or main church follows a cross-in-square layout, crowned by a central dome supported by 4 columns. Its frescoes are dated to 1548 and are attributed to Frangos Catelanos. The narthex, the space we just saw, also features its own dome and was added shortly after. While the exonarthex to the west is a later reconstruction from 1857, with a small hostel built on the upper floor. It blends discreetly into the architecture of the monastery and serves strictly monastic purposes. It's not open to tourists. During our visit, the monastery was undergoing restoration, and we even saw the basket still in use today, hauling up materials just as it did centuries ago. Right next to it, you can also see the old wooden capstan, the hand-powered mechanism once used to pull the rope and lift the basket up the cliff. The monastery's museum is one of its most fascinating spaces, not just for its collection, but also for the room itself. Inside, you'll find ancient manuscripts, Byzantine icons, liturgical vestments, and sacred objects of great historical value, each one helping to tell the story of the monastery's spiritual and cultural life. A pair of richly embroidered episcopal vestments draws the eye, complete with staffs, engolpia, and a gem-studded mitre. These ceremonial robes likely belong to high-ranking ecclesiastical figures, perhaps bishops or even abbots of Varlaam. Woven with gold thread, they reflect a technique refined in the monastery's own embroidery workshop during the late 16th and early 17th centuries. This liturgical book from the 18th century is written in ecclesiastical Greek and features rubricated prayers. Alongside the text, the margins display vivid illustrations like a 3-headed serpent wrapped around a chalice and surrounded by lotus flowers. This liturgical manuscript, dated 1626, stands out for its precise calligraphy and richly decorated initials. The floral header and ornamental capitals reflect a visual tradition inherited from Byzantine scriptoria. These richly embroidered liturgical textiles, crafted with gold and silver threads, reflect the artistic excellence of the monastic workshop at Varlaam. Dating from the 16th to 17th centuries, they were used in Orthodox rituals and stand out for their intricate iconography and delicate craftsmanship. This painted icon depicts the Christ child. The proportions are intentionally stylized. His face bears the features of an adult, with a high forehead marked by 3 distinct lines. These elements aren't errors in anatomy, but part of a long-standing Orthodox tradition, where iconography favors symbolism over realism. This painted triptych, created with egg tempera on wood, dates back to the late 16th or early 17th century and originates from the Russian Orthodox tradition. The museum holds small treasures that offer a glimpse into the past and help us better understand the history of this fascinating place. Building this monastery in such an inaccessible place wasn't just an act of devotion, it was a test of body and spirit. In every stone, every fresco, and every step upward, you can feel the tension between the earthly and the divine, between effort and transcendence. Varlaam doesn't just invite us to admire its beauty, it makes us ask, how far would you climb to find what really matters? Thanks for joining us on this journey. And if you'd like to keep exploring places like this with us, hit subscribe, tap the bell, give the video a like, and let us know what you thought in the comments. These small actions really help us keep this project going. See you in the next one. Bye bye.